Welcome back to 52 Lockup. I am your Apple Teeny Cat Mub. Bitten Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions of true crime. New episode in every Cat Maniac Monday for 52 Mondays, 52 crimes. I hope you guys enjoy. So, because I know I said 52 Mondays, 52 crimes, someone's gonna be like, what happened last week? So I think with today's episode, if you're discretion advised, of course, we should talk about the first crime of me not doing my episode last week. But I promise you, there was a very good reason. Very, very good reason. I've been extremely overwhelmed, literally doing a lot. I'm not saying I'm Wonder Woman, but I'm just saying, like, you probably won't see us in the same room. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything, but you know. But again, I apologize. I am gonna do a double episode on one of these weeks. I just gotta catch up on a couple of things, and then I'm gonna do that other episode, so that'll be like a bonus, not bonus / ode episode. But anyways, I digress. So let's take a break from all the dark stuff. I mean, last week we were talking about Uvalde, right? So let's lighten it up, kind of, I guess. But I'm only gonna lighten it up because of how this all started. Because this crime started because it sort of gave the rise of the Dark Knight of Arkansas. So as a comic, anime, manga, true crimes kind of fan, I could not let this pass out. So let's hop over into the Batmobile to Little Rock. Oracle, put up the time. I don't know what to tell Oracle. Never mind. I'm gonna stop all in my head. Anyways, but let's start off with the first victim, unfortunately. August 22nd, 2020, Larry McChristian is reported missing from his home. So Larry Eugene Christian was actually born on October 23rd, 1955. He would later on in his life marry a Nona and settle down in Yellville, Arkansas. I believe they had a child named Jesse Ryan McChristian, but I'm not completely sure on that. There was little said about the victim's life, and some news outlets stated that Larry was reported missing from Yellville on Saturday. But then when I checked the National Missing Persons Database, see if there's like anything else I could find, I couldn't find any information. And not all of the outlets reported that he was reported missing. So I'm going to go with he probably was, right? So whoever kidnapped 64-year-old Larry McChristian on Saturday would actually murder him on August 23rd, 2020, and leave his body on the stranger's porch after midnight on August 24th, 2020. The owners of the home called out, obviously, to the police. It's 2:03 a.m., and the police are heading down to 2200 South Gain Street in Little Rock. So now for some reference, okay? Little Rock is at least 2.5 hours of a drive from Yellville to Little Rock. So the question is, where's the vehicle with the evidence, right? I mean, I know that's what Officer Troy Dillard has been asking with his partner. They arrive at the scene. They find some an unknown body, John Doe, stabbed to death, and then left his corpse on somebody else's front yard. I mean, Little Rock was just, the police we don't have anything. They go to Twitter, they're like, hey, community, if you guys know anything about this murder, hit us up. So now we know that the police had very little evidence to work with. I mean, post-mortem, what are we looking at? Maybe some knife wounds. They know how he died when you're looking at the forensics team. Maybe what kind of knife that was used. But there's nothing else to tell you. Motive. Was this passionate? What's happening? I mean, officers are trying to uncover the motive for this killing. And then on top of it, why was he left in front of this particular house? Was this household owners, like, is this a warning? Like, hey, this is going to happen to you? Or are they in on the gig? Like, what's going on? It goes silent. Next thing you know, September 23rd, 2020, left on the porch at 4218 West 12th Street is 62-year-old brown-eyed Jeff Welch. Officer Ricky Harmon is the one to come see his body at 2 a.m. Jeff Welch was born on 12/09/1957. Now, again, I was unable to uncover information about his personal life prior, but I also have a feeling it's because these cases are currently ongoing. Police have no motive, right? They're like, there's another body. We have no suspects. So what do? They go to Twitter. That's their Gotham signal. They're like, community, if you know anything, see something, say something, right? Now we are down to 4/11/2021. 43-year-old Deborah Walker, born 2/12/1978, would be walking down the street, minding her business. She had a great night out. She's like, woo, it's a great night. She's enjoying herself. It's around 3 a.m. She would come around the corner of 19th Street and Marshall Street, and then a man runs up behind her, stabs her 15 times, then leaves her body there in hopes that she would die. Officer Nicholas Young would be called in, find her body in front of 1906 South Pulaski Street, right? Deborah would survive. She would go on to describe the guy as 6 feet tall and a slender build. Now, the pattern is starting to change, right? Assuming that this is the same person, right? In comparison to the previous deaths, besides the fact that she survives. Now, if this is the same person, it's often assumed that, at least that's from what I've seen in documentaries, often when killers are unsuccessful, what they do is they're like, well, fuck, that one didn't die. They're going to go out the next day or within that week to go find another. So now we're looking at 4/12/2020, right? The following day, we're starting to see a pattern in comparison. Anyone who loves documentaries, you're going to be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. So it's 4/12. Officer Henderson would be called to 2710 Wright Avenue to find the body of 40-year-old Marlon Franklin. Now, Marlon also at this time, from what they have found so far, would be the youngest victim of the Little Rock slasher. Marlon was born on 1/16/1981 and had recently, unfortunately, became homeless. So this is where it gets a little interesting, because they're trying to figure out if this is the same person. And when you're trying to figure out if it's the same person, you got to start looking at things that they have in common, right? So Larry Eugene McChristian was a 64-year-old white male. Jeff Welch was a 62-year-old white male. Deborah Walker, 43-year-old white female, but survives. Then you have Marlon Franklin, who's a 40-year-old black male. Okay? Is this the same person? Are they testing how they want to kill? Like changing up their methods, who they want to kill? Was he only targeting older white guys because he thought it'd be easier? Was he working his way towards women? Was he working his way towards black guys? I mean, we have 2 60-something-year-old white men. We have 1 40-year-old white female, and then a 40-year-old black guy. Like, is he now going to be targeting younger people? Is he going to be going back up to the ages? Is he just practicing? What is the end goal? And again, is this the same person? Right? Because it looks like it is, because they're obviously looking at like how the wounds look and everything else that's happening. If it wasn't for Deborah Walker, they probably wouldn't even have a description. Now, are these cases, again, related? They seem to be that they are related, because all the crimes seem to happen within the same neighborhood, within like the same 5-block radius, between the hours of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Does he live there? Does he visit? What's going on? So now, when you watch all these documentaries, like as much as I have, you start to think, well, what do all these victims have in common? Do they all know him? Is he a common enemy? Did they all work for him? Did they all work together? Did they pass him on the street? Did they breathe wrong? Is this a serial killer who's in the beginning of developing his killing pattern? And it's common, of course, to see kill patterns with serial killers. Now, I'm going to reference Lieutenant Nelson Andrew, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I really apologize if I butchered the last name. A retired Miami police officer who did investigate 6 serial killer cases, and explained in an article that his first attempts to track serial killers was rather to track the similarities among the people who killed strangers, right? And he presented particularly 6 cases that he investigated, which may or may not conform to these generalities, right? So 5 of these generalities that are discussed based on the consensus of the majority of criminal profilers based on actual cases obviously investigated. One of them, common knowledge. I don't know, maybe they all like the same show. I have no clue. He just hates people who likes that particular show. I'm just throwing things out there, right? It could be the genesis of a serial killer, right? Because they start testing on small things like people, maybe elderly or children, right? Now we have victim selection, right? Victim objectification and genuine. They don't seem to fit any of those things, right? And if it is the same person, then why is he picking a white man, then a black man, and a white woman? What is going on? Now, here's the thing. Serial killers do tend to stay in their own comfort zone, areas that they are familiar with. They only venture out whenever they are getting cocky. They're like, yo, I know what's going on. And they start feeling a little bit arrogant. Is this a sex-motivated crime? Is this an anger-motivated crime? Is this for financial gain? Is this for attention? You know, there is so much that goes into who is this person. Now, you're like, all right, I'm so glad you told us about that. What the fuck does that have to do with comic books? Wow. These string of stabbings have caught the attention of a vigilante. That's right, vigilante. I presume he's watching the Little Rock Police Department's Twitter and is going, that is my calling. And so far, it seems like they don't mind. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Shadow Vision, Little Rock's vigilante. Superhero for the last decade, apparently. And I said decade. That's what I read in the paper. However, his identity has not been revealed to the media. And from what I am seeing online, it doesn't look like anyone's trying to identify him either. Everyone's just like, yeah, no, he's cool. He can stay. Even during the information age and all this technology that we have, you would think people are like, we're going to go look for him. We want to know who our hero is. And no one is. Now, that caught my curiosity as well, because I was like, people are just trusting a mass vigilante. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not judging you. But I thought it was interesting, right? Because legally, you're not supposed to be a vigilante, right? Because there's due processing, there's Miranda's rights, there's evidence, circumstantial evidence, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and a string of laws to fight for you or against you, whether you were right or wrong, right? I mean, we got so much in our judicial system that we are working on and should continue to work on, right? America's social media handles will often state how much they distrust the government, how much they distrust officers, right? And you'll see that there's a back and forth, and there's whether you're looking for Blue Lives Matter, and you're like, oh, this, whatever your argument is, right? Then you have the recent attacks on Uvalde, right? And people are like, well, the officers didn't let people in. What the fuck's going on? We can't trust them. If they want to say they're putting their lives on the line, but they're not willing to do so, then you got people fighting the judicial court for Roe v. Wade. They're like, oh, we should have separation of church. And other people are like, no, we should not have separation of church because what you're doing is terrible. And then you got the protests happening with George Floyd, and you have landmark cases that are coming up with United States versus Montoya de Hernandez, because people are looking at other cases that are happening because they're worried about Border Patrol kind of just swooping in, taking out their rights when they really don't need to be doing that. Like, I mean, there's a lot happening when you look at the judicial system. I mean, I'm going to quote one of the sections from the Supreme Court website in regards to the Border Patrol, right? So it states that the alien is entering the United States unlawfully in the presence or view of the officer. There is reason to believe the alien is unlawfully in the United States and likely to escape before a warrant can be obtained. Typically, an alien apprehended at or near the border is detained pending efforts to remove the alien promptly from the United States, or if the alien is not subject to be expedited, right? Pending placement in formal removal proceedings also permits designated immigration officers to make warrantless criminal arrests in some cases when an offense is committed in the officer's presence, or if there are reasonable grounds to believe that the suspect committed a felony and would likely to escape. Title 19 of the U.S. Code, which confers federal customs authority on CBP, also permits warrantless criminal arrests in similar circumstances, right? So I'm only reading that because I'm talking about like people not trusting the courts or not trusting the officers. And of course that comes up because of the recent case that had just closed, Egbert versus Boule or Boule. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Boule. I was able to just put it in the text. However, it was about a Turkish, guest who came to Canada illegally, and people were paying attention to the fact that at the bottom, page 43, it says certain Border Patrol agents exercise broad authority to make warrantless arrests and search vehicles up to 100 miles away from the border. So people are outraged or angry. They're like, what does that mean? So when you look at that as a whole, people do not trust anyone in a position of power, right? Because I don't know if we can trust this dude. But they trust shadow vision. Perhaps shadow vision is what truly calms the people, right? Maybe it's from all the Marvel movies. Maybe it's from reading too many books. Maybe it's because he is something different, right? Now, do not see my coverage of this or my statements as an invitation to become a vigilante, because it is very dangerous to do these sorts of things. However, shadow vision is not happy about their Little Rock slasher, and he vowed to take care of the problem. Now, because he's a vigilante, my question is, what do you mean by take care of the problem? Like, are you going to Dexter them? I mean, are we going to go to the classic comic book move where you beat them up a little bit and you string them up for the cops, and then when the cops arrive, you disappear into the night? Has he found them already? And that's why we haven't really seen too much from this particular killer ever since. Did the killer leave because of the threat of shadow vision? I mean, shadow vision has even been spotted by TikTokers and recorded patrolling the streets. And Little Rock is proud. They're like, that's our boy. They are there for him, right? And by the way, I'm on his Facebook, so. But the police, again, don't seem to be bothered by him. Now, granted, obviously, they prefer if he didn't put his life on the line. However, he's seen walking around randomly in the daytime at night. And then my next question is, because of these crimes and him really popping up, how is he funding this, right? Because not everyone's Batman, you know. And this is where things start to get really fascinating, right? Because there was like one place that mentioned like, oh, he's from Scotland, but I'm like, I can't confirm that. Neither can you, because everyone knows superheroes are bound to disguise their voice, right? When the minute they can, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much that happens, you know, like we were talking, like, you know, the Dark Knight, or maybe wear glasses. I mean, he even has a Cash App. Bing! And he works with a team, Tothian and Master Legend. People are helping him, trying to get his Batmobile, the Shadowmobile, and he has a Facebook. There's 11,000 people supporting him. He's on, which I liked, like I said. He's in there showing his electric swords, which I would love to have. Check his Facebook for reference for those swords. But even reported that he was going to run for mayor of Little Rock soon. And it's just brought me back to the comics. Like, we're looking at Captain America, Thor, Earth 23 Superman, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, and Iron Man running for political positions, or even Councilman Lon. You gotta give him credit for like getting sworn in and he's got the Captain America shield. You gotta love that. However, there are vigilantes that are like Shadow Vision, right? And so let's talk about Texas-born vigilante superhero Phoenix Jones, right? Classic name of a comic book hero, right? Sounds very much like it. He's from Texas, moved to Seattle, Washington. He joins Rain City superhero movement with Thorn, and Buster Doe, Green Reaper, the Mantis, Gemini. There was, once said No Name, and I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be the name, but anyway. Catastrophe, Thunder 88, Penelope, even Red Dragon, even though it was reported that Red Dragon runs with another group. But anyway, the police have actually recorded these superheroes patrolling the streets in support of them, and these people have actually stopped crime. Like, they stopped 4 people impersonating the law enforcement. They were trying to rob a blind man. They stopped the carjacking. There's even Midnight Jack, Omega, Karma, Skyman, El Caballero, and Purple Rain, which I was a little curious about because it was Purple Rain, like, as in royalty, or if it has something to do with Prince, but I was just curious. That's just me. I'm not trying to make fun of it. I just really am curious. But from what I understand, Purple Rain is basically Oracle. And they have actually apprehended or assisted in the apprehension of like sex offenders, escort people to their cars late at night so they're safe. So I'm like, whoa, Shadow Vision's on this whole thing. Now, I've heard of vigilantes, but I think it's just to dive into it, right? And Shadow Vision maybe should call some of the people who were part of Rain City superhero movement and really get his own thing going in Little Rock if he really wants to stop the Little Rock slasher. Now, as a side note, Rain City superhero movement actually came to an abrupt end when someone on the team revealed Omega's identity to the public on YouTube about their misgivings and involvement in the movement. That's like superhero 101. So the whole thing fell apart after that. That's got to be awkward, right? Let's talk about some other superheroes. New York had the Dark Guardian before he became a Red Beret. We also have the Guardian Angels Safety Patrol, which was actually formed because of a serial killer. And you'll see more about the Guardian Angels, especially down like in Chinatown. Like, they're just packed in there, obviously, to protect the Asian community where they are, but they are all over the place, and you can actually check it out. So if you're curious, look it up. But I think it's really interesting that people are funding him and trying to help him get different weapons and patrol the streets and stuff. I mean, he's got electric swords, but what is... Like, can he use those? Like, is that gonna... Like, legally, where is that gonna stand? Like, if he actually strikes the Little Rock slasher for it, is he gonna get in trouble? Is he gonna disappear? They're gonna pretend it didn't see nothing? Are they gonna be mad like some officers were with Batman because they felt like he was doing their job, but he was doing it his way, but he wasn't following the law? Like... There's so much to ask when it comes to a vigilante. Like, is the Twitter like the bat signal? Like, I'm just asking questions, and I just really want to know because I'm so flipping curious. But I also low-key think it's amazing, right? I really think it's amazing that you have this guy who's like, yo, fuck this. I'm tired of this guy scaring our town. We're fighting back. He's a different level of, you know, the community watch where people are like, oh, watching the neighborhood watch, you know, all that stuff. And I think what he's doing is pretty cool. Now, I just find the reaction from the public to be very interesting because there's more faith and trust in a masked vigilante than there is in the government, than there is in the people. And I think that says a lot. I think that speaks a lot of volumes. That people feel safer with a complete stranger who could be masked up, saving lives, which is nothing wrong with, than they do with the people who actually get paid to do this straight from the government. So that is my case. I want to wish Shadow Vision the best of luck on his journey. I think what he's doing is really cool. And for those who may want to help, but in a different way, of course, anyone with information on those attacks, please call the police at 501-371-4636. I'll repeat it again because I may put this on the podcast. 501-371-4636. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And join his Facebook. Like, just join it. I just think this is exciting and kind of cool. And of course, if you're one of those people who are like, I want to do vigilante stuff too, if you decide that's your calling, be safe. Just don't just go and bussin'. I mean, because there's still laws. There have been people who have sought out revenge against people who have killed their daughter or done things like that, and if they've gone to jail, yeah, just in general, be careful, everyone. We may not have a shadow vision whenever we need them, but I think as a community as a whole, if we stood up together whenever we see something happening, we could all be shadow vision as one. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and hope you guys enjoyed. This is Lois Lane, clocking out.